and had paid off his first year working part-time during the summers.
Okay, Boomer.
Hello friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies, it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we are jumping into r/NeckbeardStories. Technically it comes from r/ReddX Reads. It is a beefy one from our good friend Jay Garza, who's been waiting since like December to have his story told. I dug it up out of my email inbox, posted it to my personal subreddit so I wouldn't forget to read it, and I didn't forget, I guess. Today is the day, so hooray, thank you for your patience. I know sometimes it takes me a while to get around to these Neckbeard stories, but believe me when I say that I do plan to get to each and every last one of them eventually. I mean, within the constraints that I'm given within my time on this earth or something. So let's not hesitate any longer. We'll get some plugs and disclaimers out of the way, and then we will jump right into this Neckbeard cringe. The story of Anger Management Beard and the Ballad of Animation Beard. Ooh, twofer! Now that's value for money. By Neoscene, posted by user Dayton Does, but you could just ignore that. To be clear, all of this is a true story and took place while I was in college at the Savannah College of Art and Design in the early 2000s. Names and specific locations have been changed to help guard the identities of the people involved. That's right. We ain't witch hunters here. We're just researchers. We're just observers. We're chroniclers. Anyways, in the fall of 2002, I transferred to the Savannah College of Art and Design to pursue my dream of becoming a comic book artist. At the time, I thought it was a good idea and would experience the whole college life thing that I'd heard about. SCAD had a reputation of being one of the best art schools in the US, with a lot of connections to the entertainment industry. Me, being a fresh-eyed kid, thought it would be a great experience and would create a lifetime of memories. Little did I know what type of horrible memories they would be. The kinds that have stuck with me years later. See, this is why I say you don't want to have a neckbeard encounter. People are like, I want to be able to tell my story. I'm like, no, you don't. If you haven't had one, just feel grateful. Now, an art school is already going to be filled with kids from all spectrums of society. Of course, you're going to get the weird art kids, the goth kids, spoiled trust fund brats whose parents only send them to school to get a degree. And then there's those of us that actually wanted to learn the skills to become a successful artist. Savannah itself is a very beautiful city. It's full of walkable park squares, historic buildings and districts, an active nightlife, great restaurants, etc., all within walking distance from the school campus. I spent many days just exploring what the city had to offer. I noticed that you left out the bugs. That's all I really know about the South, is that there's a lot of gigantic bugs. But everything else sounds pretty cool too. I'm down to explore a city. Now, the term neckbeard hadn't fallen into most people's vernacular yet, but after listening to a lot of these stories and the description of said people, I believe what and who I encountered would fall somewhere into the proto-neckbeard territory. That's right, we gotta go back, discover the roots. Maybe we'll find the missing link. Enter my roommate. We will call him Eddie for the time being. What happened was that I had gotten my financial aid late to the school, so I wasn't assigned my roommate until I got to campus. I didn't have a chance to talk with him before heading down to see what he would be bringing, get to know him, hobbies, major, etc. I ended up with pretty much the last pick of the roommate draw. Oh my. Eddie was a tall, pale-looking dude from up north. He was lanky, had poor hygiene, dressed in baggy clothes on his thin frame, and wore thick, black-framed glasses. His hair was matte black, oily, and looked unwashed. He also had really bad BO. However, he came off friendly enough, and I put some work in getting to know him. For the most part, Eddie was a hard worker. He was already in his third year of school studying computer animation and had paid off his first year working part-time during the summers. He was diligent in his assignments and put out some creative work. He wasn't the best artist per se, but he was open to suggestions when he asked me for my opinion on his assignments. He wasn't exactly creepy, nor did he give off any weird vibes at first, but I did notice that he was a bit antisocial and didn't seem to make friends very easily. He wasn't part of any school clubs or activity boards, and he never participated in any of the school events that were held on campus. I, for one, was involved with so many different groups and loved getting to know a lot of new people. SCAD had a great international community, and I was soon making friends from all over the world. I took it upon myself to help break him out of his shell and let him experience more of what college life had to offer. To tell you a bit about myself, I'm Hispanic, socially knowledgeable, and tend to get along with most people. I don't have trouble making friends. I did have a little bit of a nice guy vibe back then, but that would be something that I would grow out of as I got older. Thank God. But I had no troubles talking to girls or getting dates if I needed. I would later go on to become a radio and nightclub DJ for 3 years, but all this was before that. Now, there were little things that started popping up about Eddie that told me things weren't exactly right with this guy upstairs. The first being that he never ate in the school cafeteria. We lived on campus, and there was a rather nice cafeteria where we could go to eat and meet up with friends. He, however, would go in, grab a to-go box, and just take it back to his room. He would always eat the same thing: hamburgers, fries, and a soda. Never tried anything else on the menu. Occasionally he would have a pizza slice, but his menu mainly consisted of greasy, fried foods. The room would have piles of these boxes laying around, and the greasy smell of fast food persisted throughout the year. Building a nest, he is. Eating all that crap probably didn't help his acne either, as he was always breaking out and had these really big inflamed zits on his face. He never took the school buses anywhere and just rode his bike around town to get to classes. This was his way of staying in shape. He would come home, however, covered in sweat and not shower. Being that this was the South, it was always humid out, so his body odor would get rather nasty. I took showers daily and even showered after my workouts when I had them. Man, I live in the Philippines. I know about humid, all right? I don't know how, physically he could manage this. Doesn't it drive him crazy? Is he an angry person because of this? It's simple. Take a shower. It's all gonna be fine. One friend he did have was a kid that lived next door to us, Mayfield. He was a super rich kid from the South, actually related to Britney Spears. He was kinda spoiled and loved showing off his massive supercomputer and its sound system, blasting the soundtrack to The Matrix. Oh, God. Out of all the music you could have picked, the soundtrack to The Matrix? Oh, buddy. He blasted through the walls. He wasn't obviously spoiled, but it slipped every now and then how much money his family actually had. His roommate was a kid from Asia, whose father had trained him to live on 4 hours of sleep a night. The dude was part ninja, I think. Another guy down the hall was a champion Capcom fighting games player. I'd go over to his room and help him practice for a couple tournaments that he competed in. It was good fun, and my skills in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 improved tremendously. He was a super cool dude, and we had a lot in common. Thinking back on it, I think me and him would have made better roommates. Yeah, bro, go down the office, ask for the swap. But probably nobody wants to live with Eddie. They know what you're trying to do. Things started getting more apparent that Eddie had some serious anger management issues. He would freak out with the smallest things, sending him into an absolute frothing rage. For example, Mayfield had brought over his Xbox so we could play Halo on it. I never played the game and was having fun with the multiplayer. Mayfield was pretty good and easily took out Eddie in PvP. Eddie started getting angry, always losing, and started yelling at the TV and then at us, calling us cheaters for beating him. Then, after a devastating headshot that killed him, he threw Mayfield's controller across the room, almost breaking it. The room got dead quiet. I rolled my eyes in frustration and just went back to my desk. Eddie turned around, put his headphones back on, and went to his computer, muttering him to himself. Mayfield packed up his Xbox and never played with us in the room again. I wonder why. I like how nobody addressed the issue. You should have fucking screamed at him. Like a dog that pees on the rug. You gotta be like, no throw controller, that bad! Then at least maybe he learned something. Maybe. Little things like this started adding up. Getting angry over online gaming, getting angry about his classes, getting angry at other people, yelling, cursing, and basically just throwing a fit like an overgrown toddler. That's a neckbeard, all right. Now, Eddie wasn't particularly good with girls. Through the whole year, I never saw him approach a single woman on campus. There were a ton of pretty girls everywhere, and I encouraged him to go up and just say hello. But he would make an excuse and go back to the room. And all that was fine, I guess. You live your life. You do you, boo-boo. But I started to feel it myself whenever I brought a girl back to our room. I never actually got to have any alone time, as he would never leave the room, nor give us any privacy when I did have company over. He would creep out whatever female friend I had over, and I basically just stopped bringing them by altogether just to avoid the icky vibe that he was sending out. I hope you asked him at some point, because communication is key. At some point, if he's not getting the message, you just have to say, hey man, can we have some privacy here? That's how I'd handle it anyways. During our time together, I did get Eddie to open up a bit about his past. Turns out that his father had abandoned him and his mother when he was young. He did have a sister that he wasn't very close to, and his mother had remarried. To say it bluntly, his relationship with his stepfather was strained, but they tried to get along. I think this may have led to a lot of his anger management issues, and possibly some abandonment issues, but that shouldn't have been any excuse for his behavior. That's right, it's a reason, it's not an excuse. We all have reasons, and then we find a way to cope. There were two major incidents that ultimately confirmed that something was off with Eddie mentally. The first was one day when he was returning from class. He told me that a woman had cut him off on the corner while he was biking to the computer arts lab. Instead of just letting it go, like a normal human being, he followed her on his bike to her home. Oh, God. That's good cringe. He waited for her to go inside and then proceeded to key up the entire side of her car in anger, totally defacing it. He then got back on his bike and went to class. What the fuck? Oh, what a maniac. When I told him that what he had done was actually vandalism and destruction of private property, he just shrugged and said, that was what she deserved. I could have turned him into the police for this, but at the time, I didn't. I knew that it would have gotten him kicked out of school, but looking back on all this, I probably should have. Definitely should have. Do you honestly think anybody cuts anybody else off on purpose? No. She's probably got something on her mind and she just didn't see him or something, and he decided to take it super personally, and instead of just ignoring it like a normal person or screaming after her car and calling her an idiot like a slightly less normal person, he decided to do the least normal thing and go deface her property. Bro, that is so far past the line. God. The second and far more creepy of the events, oh no, took place in the middle of the night. Eddie had set up his computer to render some animation overnight and went to bed. About halfway through, he got up to check on it. His computer had frozen and locked up, causing him to lose hours worth of work. Bruh, save. Why didn't you save? Always save. Or maybe he meant like the actual rendering as the hours worth of work, which really isn't work aside from just waiting around. Do you know how long it took me to put together my wife's cow poop hunting vlog? Vegas stopped rendering at 11%, like no less than 15 times. I was trying like all these different file formats and shit like this. Oh, it was driving me crazy. But at no point did I get insanely upset. I'm just like, okay, we'll figure this out. I think it also helped that it was wifey's project and not mine. If it was mine, I probably just would have scrapped it and like, whatever. I'll record something else, this piece of crap. But I saw how hard wifey worked editing her own video, and I'm like, I gotta do this. I gotta make it happen for her. Anyways, instead of just restarting his PC and putting the project back together, he started crying and throwing a fit. Oh, putting the project back together. That means he didn't save. Bruh. What's wrong with you? Always save before you go to render. That's a lesson hard learned. He laid on the floor, pounding it with his fists, crying and sobbing to himself. He then got up, waddled into the bathroom, and started screaming and yelling at himself. Things like,
"Why does this always happen to me? What the fuck is wrong with me?"
I just laid there in my bed, wide awake, listening to a 22-year-old man scream and curse at himself in the bathtub. He was in there for a good 30 minutes, crying and sobbing, until he came out and just crawled into his bed in a fetal position. This boy has some serious issues, man. He didn't even finish putting it back together and get it re-rendering. He's just like, whatever. God damn. Later the next day, he came up to me and apologized for his dramatic display. And promised that
it wouldn't happen again.
After this, though, I did everything I could not to be in that room unless I absolutely had to. I did my homework at the library, watched TV in my friend's room, and only went back basically to shower, change my clothes, etc. And he was always there. Always there. Always waiting. Eddie did have one other friend, a former roommate, that would come over to check on him. What's funny was that this friend would often wear a trench coat, a fedora, and, of course, he had a neck beard. But he was a super cool guy, easygoing and very chatty, even had a cute girlfriend. He had experienced Eddie's behavior himself when I brought it up, and felt sorry for him. Sounds like maybe that's a neckbeard who's coming through the other end of the tunnel, you know? He's finally seen the light, reverted his behavior. Towards the end of the year, Eddie asked me if
I wanted to be roommates again.
As he said,
he liked me and thought I was a nice guy.
I told him I thought it was best that we didn't, but I'd stop by and say hello from time to time. OP never stopped by and said hello from time to time. Abandoned! Eddie didn't fall into the traditional neckbeard category. I would say he's more like an offshoot. That's why Firedrake is working so hard to classify all these neckbeards, because there are so many different species and types and brands out there. It was someone that was socially awkward, had mental issues, and wasn't good with people. He didn't have a superiority complex, actually quite the opposite, nor did he think that he deserved the attention of women. Okay, so beard light. A half beard. I did check up on him from time to time the next year to see how he was doing. Aw, you're a better person than me. He graduated the year after and moved back north. Lost touch with him soon after, and I had no desire to reconnect with him on Facebook. Mayfield, the neighbor whom I still talk to, told me that he last talked to him over a game on Xbox Live. Eddie lost, threw another fit, and Mayfield cut him off soon after that. I really hoped that Eddie would grow out of it, you know, get some counseling and move on with his life, but he's not someone that I personally would ever want to be around again. And so that concludes the story of Anger Management Beard. While I thought I was out of the woods with creepy crying roommates, I would soon encounter the real thing my next year at school with Animation Beard. So while I do think Eddie had some beard-like tendencies, OP kind of did nip that theory in the bud when he's like, oh, he didn't have a superiority complex, didn't think that he deserved the attention of women. But I don't know if I can completely buy that, you know, with statements like, how could this happen to me, stuff like that. He obviously thinks that he's too good for something as simple as a fucking computer lockup during rendering to happen to him. Mistakes happen, bro. They happen to everybody. They probably happen at Disney, Pixar, whatever, when they're rendering Incredibles 8. We'll never see Incredibles 8. So that already screams to me that he thinks that he's too good, at least for that. Also, with the video game thing, he like can't believe that he lost at a video game. Like, bro, just accept that there's always gonna be a bigger fish out there. You know what I mean? Do I sit here and get jealous about like channels like r/ and JonTron? No, I carry on. I do my thing the best that I know how to do it and try and slowly evolve the content as I see fit. In the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, maybe someday I'll get there. But even if I don't, that'll be completely fine because I have already gotten so much more than I actually deserve with this YouTube thing. Now, not to toot my own horn or some shit, but that is called truly being humble, you know? Not this self-pitying crybaby bullshit where you think you deserve better at every turn. So I would say, with all that in mind, full-fledged neckbeard. Not a beard light. Full-fledged neckbeard. Just a self-pitying brand of neckbeard, which I'm going to bring to Firedrake and have him put this into the classifications. So yeah, don't be fooled by these neckbeards that pretend to feel bad for themselves, because all they're trying to do is seek pity. And then when you start bending over backwards and capitulating to them, that is where their sense of superiority comes from. I can't sign off on any of that shit. So good. I'm glad we talked it out. I hope I was able to shed some light on things. And with all that said, let's jump into the story of Animation Beard. Hey everyone, I'm back again with part 2 of my own neckbeard experiences. This time we're back at SCAD for my second year. I'm still living on campus, but I've moved across the parking lot to a different dorm. The summer had been pretty uneventful. I did an internship with a festival organization in my hometown, but I was looking forward to seeing my friends back in Savannah. This time I was able to get my financial aid done in time and got to talk to my roommate beforehand. Oh, what a treat. He was a guy named Linus. I had seen him around before and he seemed like a nice enough fellow. He was a traditional 2D animation major and I thought that would vibe more with my sequential art major, as the two had a lot of overlapping classes. When I got to school, I got to meet Linus, and I was in for a surprise, as he was not the guy who I thought that I was rooming with. Linus was a 6'3", 300 plus pounds giant of a man, pasty white skin, a scraggly, patchy neck beard, poor hygiene, and an even poorer sanitary routine. Oh lord. For the most part, he was a friendly guy, kept to himself, quiet, and minded his own business. Often he would do his work at night and just leave me alone, so I had plenty of privacy as opposed to Eddie. I wouldn't say that we were ever friends, as we never put the work into knowing one another, but there was mutual respect. On days that he had his classes, he would don his favorite trench coat, grab his fedora, tip me, "Good day," and head out. Again, this is Savannah, where it is humid and hot for most of the year. Linus had very interesting hobbies, to say the least. At least once per week, he and other friends of his would go perform the Rocky Horror Picture Show at a local venue. Hey, that's pretty sweet, though. I checked out one of the performances, and it was interesting, to say the least. Like, they put on a play for it, or I don't understand completely. But I do like the movie. He also liked doing live-action role-playing, and would leave for entire weekends to run around in the forest with other LARPers. That I never checked out. Oh, come on, OP. LARPing ain't that bad. You might have done yourself a disservice. You might learn to love it. Linus wasn't exactly a clean freak. In fact, he never cleaned at all. Not once in the entire school year did I see him ever wash his bed sheets, pillows, or blankets. His laundry would just go unwashed for weeks and pile up, stinking up the entire room. Often, I would see him going through his dirty clothes and pulling out pairs of underwear only to put them back on. That was really gross. It's funny though, until you get a urinary tract infection or something. Finally, when I had friends over and they complained about the smell, I told him to do his laundry. Even offered to give him some detergent if he needed it, which he did. I did my laundry at least once every 2 weeks, but he did his 3 times during the entire school year. I hope he has a lot of clothes and he's not just recycling everything. During spring break of that year, he vanished for 2 weeks out of the blue. I had no idea where he went, no note, no messages, etc. While I didn't mind having the entire room to myself, it did start to worry me. I told the dorm supervisor about it, and he called Linus's parents. Turns out he'd gone camping out in the woods with his LARP group and just didn't bother informing anyone in the dorm about it. I mean, if he had been like murdered in the woods, then it's probably good that you go to the soup about it, you know? I don't understand why you wouldn't tell your roommate. Like, he's a weird guy. He is a weird guy. I didn't know much about his family, friends, etc., as when we were in the room together, he would just put on his earphones and keep to himself. One time, I walked in on him watching Japanese lesbian wrestling porn. Is that a thing? That was probably the most awkward exchange we had. I mean, I didn't really care. Wrestling porn? Bro, what is that? I'm scared. I will say that Linus was a very good animator. His final project was phenomenal, and when he showed it to me, I was really impressed with his talent. The year ended and we parted ways. Never stayed in touch with him, but I did look him up after writing this. He's still LARPs, but he's lost a ton of weight, got into shape, and looks genuinely a lot happier. I can only wish him nothing but the best. Unfortunately, my roommate stories didn't get any better. The year after that, I moved off campus into a house with a couple of film majors. We had nothing in common. And they made the whole school year a living nightmare. After that, I lived with 2 other kids in a converted mansion. That started out okay, until their boyfriends and girlfriends decided to move in, and now I was sharing my home with 4 other people, and only 1 fucking bathroom. I then started dating a Korean millionaire heiress that lived upstairs, but that is a story for a later day. What the fuck, bro? You can't just drop knowledge like that and be like, I'll tell you about it later. What the hell? I did have an encounter with a legbeard in my sequential art department. In short, she was this bird-looking girl that was completely obsessed with dragons. That's all she ever drew and wrote were dragon stories. She actually believed she was a dragon in a previous life, and even drew herself as a dragon for her logo design. She had terrible body odor and was just annoying to be around. Not sure what happened to her. Maybe she flew away. I also had a friend who had gone out with like some crazy stalker legbeard who actually was kind of hot. It's the beard on the inside, OP. Look out! She followed him from New York to Savannah just to be with him, transferring schools and everything. I mean, this girl was obsessed. Even when he broke it off with her, she started flirting with his roommate and even began sleeping with him, just so she could be in the same room as her ex. The poor dude had to move off campus and get an apartment so that he could finally get away from her. Anyways, that concludes my neckbeard stories. I hope that you enjoyed them. So I had it backwards the entire time. Animation Beard was actually the Beard Light. He doesn't seem too bad at all. He minds his own fucking business. He has his own hobbies. He seems like a pretty cool dude overall. I mean, he does wear dirty underwear and doesn't wash his laundry and kind of stinks, but that's where the neckbeard part comes peeking out, you know what I mean? So yeah, given a choice between the two, I would infinitely prefer to hang out with Animation Beard over Anger Management Beard. I mean, it's no contest, basically. And it seems like Animation Beard is able to like turn his life around, become a better person. Anger Management Beard just kind of probably remain the same. Nobody cares enough to check up on him because he's just a nasty person to be around. At least Anger Management Beard would like mind his own business, you know, give people some space. I mean, maybe a little too much space because he disappeared for 2 weeks without telling anybody, but isn't that better than having somebody who's just constantly in the room? You bring a chick home, you're waiting for him to leave, and he just never does. That is super awkward. So it seems like you got a lot of other stories to share, OP, and I mean, my subreddit is open for your use, r/ReddX reads. I promise that it won't be another like 4 or 5 months until I get into the story. I'm digging into this subreddit like pretty often, all things considered. Lately, it's been popping. I'm definitely really appreciative to everybody who posted, and I will get to it eventually. I do promise you that much. One thing that I will ask in exchange, no, not even in exchange. I don't want to do a dirty little deal, okay? Just if you like the content, all right? I hope you will like, comment, and or subscribe. Maybe hit the little notification bell. Hey, maybe go share it around if you should like. Introduce some other people to Neckbeard Stories, because God knows we got a lot of them on this channel. Over 100 now, and I need your help to spread the word. So pretty please, with sugar on top. Post on your Facebook, your Twitter, tag somebody. Thank you in advance. I also hope you'll check out the links in the description. Ooh, Mr. and Mrs. ReddX, Wifey's channel. We did some r/praying mantis. People were asking for some more couple dynamic stuff. And so we're gonna keep it over on that channel because we're trying to grow it up to 1,000 subs. You know, get that monetization enabled, which would be pretty sweet. So if you like what was offered yesterday and maybe the day before, I hope you go and check that out. Mr. and Mrs. ReddX. We've also got the subreddit, as I might have mentioned, r/ReddX Reads. There's also my Amazon affiliate link, just a little more residual income, which is super helpful. Oh, speaking of residual income, how could I almost fake forget about my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons? Right now, Josh K, still the king, #1 donator. But you are seeing some other names on the screen right now, and I would like to thank them all as always, but especially 0MMX, Lady Nix, Robert Waits, Pope Squid, Rebecca H, Cider Drinker, Tato Fair, The Last Shinobi, Mark 211, Michael Undead, Aaron W, Mitch, John Hero, Josh K, The King, Candy Sora, DigiNZ, Fire Drake, Little Lone Wolf, Lone Island, Shara, Marvin DeMoth, Miss Monday, Silent Revolver, JM Kun, Leon Embers, and TSM Kirby. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. It is massively appreciated. Sometimes things do get demonetized. It's hard to say what YouTube likes and doesn't like, but we're doing our best to stay away from it. However, sometimes when we do get hit, it's really nice to be able to lean back on the patrons. So thank you guys so much. Also, if you can support monetarily, I would thank you in advance. Again, it's huge. But if you can't right now, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow. Because really the views, you know, is how my beard gets buttered, mostly. In order to do so, you'll need to keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hand all the time, super important. Don't touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth unless you just wash your hands, right? That's a good tip for life. But as seriously as I want you to take that little piece of advice, I also want you to, you know, take a step back, do some things that you personally enjoy, something just for yourself. Like maybe watching another ReddX video. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Anyways, please always remember that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I will see you in the next one, friends. And until then, bye-bye.